Hey guys, welcome back to Loading Please Wait, episode 3. This is part 2 as we jump into the warrior topic and progress from there. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll jump right into the show. All right, our next topic, since we're kind of following this theme here, is the warrior. Since we've seen it, the revamped version, if that you call it that, the resilience working or not, I don't know. And that, to me, the resilience didn't matter. It wasn't a factor in the class at all. Maybe that's because I don't know the mob damage value ranges yet to do the math on it. But as a class playing, watching it, and this is watching it, obviously playing it might be different, especially with like skill, any sort of skill playing this class. It just seemed kind of keep your hate dot up and hit angering blow. I mean, it felt one-dimensional, but maybe that's because they weren't using formations. They weren't using other kinds of banners. It was like hate banner and hitting angering blow. To me, it seems kind of eh.
Yeah, I don't think that the person playing the warrior was necessarily being that strategic with the usage of all of the abilities. Again, I think the last stream was not so much about the warrior, but more about the climbing with a little bit of warrior in there. That's not to say it wasn't bad. I thought it was great. I'm glad to see that the class has improved. I think it's much more an active class now than it was before. There are some things that a warrior is going to have to be very mindful of. Those banners have a very big radius to them. And if you watch the stream closely, he dropped it one time and he was standing too close to a wall and that flag dropped on a ledge well above him. So if there had been mobs up there, they would have aggroed everything that was up there. Another time he kind of threw it in front of himself, and around the corner were two dwarves standing back in a little, alcove. And the flag had line of sight, so it aggroed those. So if you're in a dungeon somewhere, you're seriously going to have to think about where you're placing your flag. Just don't willy-nilly throw it out there. Look around and think, is this the best place to put this flag?
I mean, that begs a couple of questions in my mind. Number one, should they even have an aggro component? And number two, could you use that to your advantage with some sort of difficult pull potentially? Could you use that as a ranged pull or dropping it through a floor or ceiling to grab a mob? I mean, that could be fun.
Well, so if you notice on the stream, when he dropped it one time, the dwarf aggroed on the flag, and another dwarf, which had line of sight to the person playing the warrior, came directly to the warrior. Now, if you've got an enchanter in your group and you've got a difficult split coming up, you drop the flag, they aggro on the flag, it gives your enchanter time to mez one of those targets, your warrior then pulls the other one off of the flag and you continue your fight. So you could use it as a way of helping your enchanter do their job. Or if you don't have that, you've got like somebody who could root or snare or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure it makes sense, like if that's how it should work, but that's a really cool, I love that. That's almost a type of emergent gameplay there.
Yeah, I mean, Joppa did mention it too on the Ko stream. He goes, well, actually, you could even pull with it, but then Ko wasn't paying attention and like ran up and, proximity aggroed everything anyway, but that's a different story.
I think another thing that banners are intended, very specifically to do is to mitigate when there are multiple warriors in the group, giving them something to do differently.
Right.
And not just like there's a meta is going to obviously evolve very quickly. And if you're an aggro class, the warriors probably, if it's the only tank in the group, it's not going to be hasting, it's not going to be buffing, it's going to be dropping a hate totem, a hate banner. But if there's a second warrior, that's when you can get into the more DPS and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I went back and I went through all the abilities, and really the only thing I saw that required a shield was shield block. So that means they can pop dual wield, pop two-hander, go to town, drop their DPS banners, and it adds a completely different play style to the class. But then again, stupid LAS, they'd have to premeditate ahead of time and let everyone know, hey guys, can't tank. I'm DPS spec right now.
Right.
So fucking stupid. But anyway, I asked Joppa some class questions during the co-stream, or maybe it was during when Sacred was playing, but either way, he responded with, he didn't want to basically get into too many class questions because they are going to go ahead and start doing exposés essentially on each class, and we just happened to see the warrior first. So my question to you guys is what class you'd like to see for yourself.
I mean, I'd love to see the monk not suck, but beyond a personal preference, is the druid in game these days? And what's up with the summoner? Is the summoner have pets that actually have animations and has class-defining skills and abilities in the game now? Because those two were kind of like the least fleshed out, if I recall, from the previous alphas.
Since I plan on maining a shaman, of course I want to see the shaman gameplay next. I want to see the druid. I'd like to see the summoner. Those are the things that we've seen the least of. I think the monk has been undervalued or underrepresented as well. Same thing with the rogue. I mean, it's unfortunate that we've only really seen one class being shined upon, really, in any significant detail. So we've got 11 more to go. My concern is if they're showing, let's say they do one of these exposés once every 2 weeks. We're now talking 22 weeks to get through every single one of them.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I'm going, that's really disappointing. That's kind of depressing that it's going to take that long. I mean, you're talking 5.5 months to get through, these. And hopefully by then, we'll be through a pre-alpha and hopefully into an alpha. Frankly, what I would rather see them do is put 6 people, 6 developers in there, each in a different class, and record each of their screens and put up 6 streams at one time. So you've got the people who want to watch the cleric can watch the cleric, the people who want to watch the rogue can watch the rogue. Let 6 classes be exposed at one time, and you just let the developers cycle through and talk about what their classes are doing, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's kind of like when they had the community stream or whatever with all the different streamers playing. At least you could go back and pull all the video and watch each class individually. And I think that would be 6 birds with one stone kind of thing,
Right, exactly right. And to get through this stuff in a reasonable amount of time, they're gonna have to do something other than just one. And if they do it every 2 weeks, 22 weeks from now.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea and better than my idea. I was going to say something maybe along the lines of starting out with the goal of demonstrating gameplay. By that I mean maybe we don't have 6 people in a stream, or maybe we do like a real short 15-minute, here's a shaman and a monk grouped together, or here is a summoner, a wizard, and an enchanter grouped together, or here's a warrior and a cleric, or a paladin and a ranger. And you can really start to see how the different abilities play off of each other and the different classes relate to each other, as opposed to kind of just this smorgasbord of people doing stuff all over the place that's hard to follow with 6.
That's a really good idea. I think if devs hear this, that's a great idea. You could take 30 minutes of your day, sit down and cut 15 minutes of good quality gameplay together, and then just voice over it and say, this is what I did here. As you can see, so-and-so happened. That's how this ability works because this happened. A little gameplay playthrough. It doesn't need to be long, but it really showcases the class, it showcases the mechanics, and it's like, oh, that's how this class plays. Instead, you have to listen to assholes like us talk about the classes and how either good or bad they are. All right, let's move on to the. Oh, I guess I should say mine. I definitely mirror the monk. I wanna see that one. But of course, as of right now, unless they're a shit show, paladin. I want to see paladin really bad because I think they'll be an active, interesting tank to play. So those are my top two that I want to see. Anyway, next topic is kind of what we heard about in the most recent thing, and that's most recent news stream, I should say, the UI updates, the Living Codex, and the Murk. And now that we have an actual graphic of the Living Codex, it's how it's going to be different. There are, looks like, color tabs in there, which makes me think, this is just my opinion, that it's going to be like EQ, where the spell color or the icon color tab will denote, this is an AE ability, this is a single target ability, this is a beneficial ability, and then you'll be able to color coordinate what those are, and maybe even put them all together in your book. And the main thing from the Living Codex was those 3 little bubbles below each ability, and we were told that that's how you modify them, build them up, get them stronger. So you guys can talk about the Living Codex, the Murk, UI updates, and I should note that there is a new combat window that they just got done. There is a new chat window they just got done, and they are working right now on getting the new hotbar completed as well.
Go for it, Kino.
I think the Murk is a cool name. I'm not as down on some of the UI issues, and there are issues, as some people, namely you two. And it's good to see some improvements. I think one thing that people confuse is user experience. User interface impacts the user experience, but just how efficiently can things be done? How intuitive are they? And that impacts the user experience and our gameplay. So I hope we continue to see improvements in that. As far as the Living Codex, first, I haven't ranted much on this one. I've been pretty positive, which is weird. This name just makes me roll my eyes back into my head. It's like the most
yeah, it's very cringy,
fake, lore-ridden name for spell book I've ever seen. But okay,
or just
whatever.
Book. It's a book.
Yeah. I'm curious how those pips, like, clearly this is not a completed user interface. How do you drag and drop things in there? Do you have points where you fill them in yourself? How do you actually modify and enhance specific abilities? That's a question, and I don't see that readily. I will say that even though it's should be expected, it is nice to see sorting features. Like Vandrad said, maybe we can even click on the green tab next to one of those abilities, and it'll bring us to a page with all of those healing spells or whatever they are, or click the red tab and it gives us all of our debuffs or nukes. I think that's cool. We shouldn't get excited about sorting and filtering. It's 2020, but at least that's some progress. One question I have is, how come on that one screen capture we have, there actually are no spells or skills or abilities in the Living Codex? They're all just placeholder strings. Ability name.
Yeah.
Ability name.
Ability name is it's overpowered for right now. Ability name is overpowered.
It's ability bloat.
5 years. The Living Codex was talked about 5 years ago on the website, and they don't even have skills and spells and abilities in it yet. All right, never mind. I'm done.
I like the spell book. I refuse to call it a Living Codex. It's a book. It's a spell book. My only concern, really, in the end, is can I rearrange the spells in the order that I want them? I don't care about the little pips or the colors or whatever. I want to be able to do my own ordering. I'm guessing that those 3 little pips, when you first put a spell in there, those 3 things will be blank. And those pips will tell you how many more times you can update that particular spell. Just to give you a quick reference, a visual reference of, can I upgrade this or update it, modify it anymore? It remains to be seen what the limitations are for those types of upgrades. If you have a heal spell, do you want to stack it 3 times? Are there downsides for spell stacking like that to make a heal 3 times or however 3 additional buffs to healing power? I look at that spell book and the minimalist in me goes, oh, another UI element with tons and tons of wasted space. Dear God, let me change the UI. Because I want to take out all of that dead space. I don't need all the little filigree things and the greeblies and whatever else is on there. It just takes up a lot of space. Thankfully, it's not on your screen at all times. As for the UI itself, I'm glad to see a lot of user experience improvements. I like the fact that you now see buffs and debuffs of your target in the target window instead of only floating over the mob's head. I hated having, on those streams looking around to see, whoa, what spells or debuffs are. I can't tell because they're all just blurred in and covered by all the spell effects. So seeing those updates is at least nice, and it looks like they're making some improvements. They just need to, of course, do more.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be negative, but it just seems like that's something that should just be expected, that if you have a target or a target of target, that you're going to see your buffs and debuffs. So I'm glad it's in the game, but it's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, wow, awesome, they're doing amazing work here. It's just, no, okay, they've now checked a requisite box that every other game is going to have done as well.
Yeah,
but
true.
It is good. I'm glad they have it.
You know what blows my mind that's not in right now is health of target's target. Like, you still have no idea what target the mob is attacking. You're assuming it's the tank, but you have no idea. You have no clue unless you're like specifically staring at the mob and there's someone close enough where it's obvious. But in like every single stream, it seems like they get asked, is there going to be health of target's target? And they're always like, oh yeah, that's coming. It's not in yet. It's like, what the hell, man? You did this whole living Codex update. You did all these buff things, the health bars on top of everybody. You couldn't make a single little box that says who is aggro on that goddamn mob. I don't get it.
It's really easy too, because you already have all of those objects already exist in the back end. The mob, the health, the players, like those are objects that are stored in memory on the server or on the client, whatever. And you just need to have a UI element that says, and a function that says target of target. And there you go.
Yeah, because they can even like the actual UI element of like your target. You can copy paste that for the element. You don't need a new one. You just need to drag it over, and that's it.
Bingo. Yep.
That drives me crazy.
One thing was driving me nuts is on the streams, and this is totally, it doesn't matter at all. I cannot tell what about 2/3 of the class icons are. Okay, there's one with 2 swords being crossed. That's probably the rogue. What the hell is the monk one? That's supposed to be like the druid, the shaman. What is the shaman one? I guess it's a dream catcher or something. I can't even tell. What's the enchanter one? It's got an eyeball. The dire lord icon. Like, I can't look at these and say, yep, that's the paladin, that's the warrior, that's the ranger. They don't identify their class. And I think that's something, while not a big deal, would add some polish.
So you're talking like an EQ when you opened up the character window, right? You saw your little class graphic. Like the monk had the palm thing, but the Pantheon version is, those white drawings, and they're in the class window as well. They carried those through to, or not the class window, sorry, the party frames. And you're like, what class is that guy? Unless you're looking at them and you can tell, you have no idea what classes are in the group.
Yeah, because I kept looking at the cleric one and thinking that was the paladin.
I agree, totally. I was like, oh yeah, cleric. Oh wait, is that? Yeah, I don't know. And then you go back to the website, which is so fucking awesome, and you're like, oh, there it is.
Okay,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I say the cleric and paladin are both like hammery type things.
Yeah. And I don't get the Dire Lord.
Yeah,
Again,
what the hell? What is the Dire Lord? Like, it's like some original art design that does not at all represent a dark magic melee person. I don't have any idea what that is.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure eventually in time we'll come to, identify them readily, but again, right now there's just a little bit of a disconnect and some confusion. I don't even recognize them, and I look at them enough.
Yeah, I bet they get a redesign or something with the new
I'm sure
website.
they will.
With the new website,
Yeah,
guys.
coming soon.
You were like, oh, they said it would be out in 2019 or 2018 or 2017, but let's go with 2019.
Well, it's because the thing I remember the most was the end of the year 2018 or beginning of the year 2019 producer letter, one of those. And Ben Dean said, we're not in, we have Project Fairthale, blah, 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 but we can say we have a brand new website coming this year. That came and went. So it's just another one of those things, kind of like womp womp.
Womp womp.
But
it's really just the forums that need updating. The website in general is fine. The content needs updating, but
yeah, exactly. The content. I think that's the main gripe, and I guess I should say that the content needs updating. The actual overhaul of the website, who fucking cares? Most people go directly to the forums unless they want to look up class information
or read 1,500 words on lore. Ugh.
So, what about the Murk?
Yeah,
what do we know about it?
Well, we know that it's a high-level dungeon or zone. I guess it's probably one of those, I would compare it probably, at least how I hear it, is more like Avendar's Pass, where there's multiple areas, higher level. It's got a kind of a dungeony feel, but it's external, and it's kind of a gateway to the Isle of Infinite Storm and maybe another raid zone or whatever.
So we were having a conversation with Joppa in, I forget where it was, but because he kept using the term subzone. He said, "Oh, the Murk is a subzone of Fairthale," and we're going, what does subzone mean? And I asked the question, is there a zone line, a physical zone line between Fairthale and the Murk? And he was saying yes. And I said, okay, so it is a separate zone. And he goes, no, subzone. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, thematically, they're linked together. So he said, like, Halnir's Cave is a subzone of Avendar's Pass because it's linked to it and is related to it. And he said that's why, the Murk is a subzone of Fairthale. It's part of that whole, grouping of zones that are all kind of linked together.
It's like a lore theme, kind of.
Yeah, and I was like, why don't you just call it zone? He's like, no, subzone. Okay, so you're just coming up with other words.
Yeah, it's kind of a pretentious way of saying it.
It's one of those things that seems like an internal figure of speech that should stay internal. It makes some logical sense.
And he admitted to that later on, that's how they referred to it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But, if you use a word like that, please define it so we understand what you're talking about. Because we were assuming that it was a sub area of Fairthale. Like, there was no hardline zone break between the two, and you could walk uninterrupted from an area of Fairthale into this higher level Murk area. He's like, nope, there's a zone line. Okay.
Yeah, then just call it a zone.
Call it a zone.
Yeah, the best example I can think of is there's Upper Guck and Lower Guck. Not one time where you're like, oh no, Lower Guck is a subzone of Upper Guck, which is a subzone of Inethel Swamp.
Right.
Yeah.
Kedge Keep is a subzone of Dagnor's Cauldron because it's the only zone you can zone into that zone from.
State of Unrest. Thank you very much.
Word. So the real question here, jokes aside, is do we expect the Murk to be part of Project Fairthale? because people are arguing to this day that Fairthale is one zone, which we know it is not. Fairthale is a subcontinent.
Yeah.
It is a region, a distinctly defined region that they're using as this high top to bottom demo area. It's going to have multiple zones. It's going to have low level stuff, raid encounters, one group encounters, etc. Is the Murk going to be part of that? Are we expecting the Murk to be the 40 to 50 area when Project Fairthale launches?
I think what we're seeing, or going to be seeing, is we'll have Fairthale City, Fairthale, like the Old Wood and the other connecting zone, and then that all connects to, like the Murk, and then you can go east and hit Avondale or whatever middle zone there. So I think we'll see, at least four or five big zones and then a couple sub zones for the whole project.
Oh, you just said sub zone.
Yeah, my bad.
I'm hoping that Fairthale does not connect to a vendor's pass, because if you think about it, that puts 2 starting cities within 2 zones of each other.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I just didn't know
again,
what
if I'm
zones
thinking
they'd
about
be.
an entire continent, I really don't want to see, you had ogres and trolls in EQ1 being one zone apart. Elves, and I'd just rather see races spread out a little bit more. But yeah, I expect to see that the Murk is going to be part of this big Project Fairthale extravaganza that we're supposed to see soon. Trademark.
Yeah,
I hope it is, because that's actually something I'd finally be excited about. Like I would like to see a cool, new, dangerous sounding high level zone that kind of gets the juices flowing again.
Well,
And also, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, isn't that where the those Murk elves live? The ones that they showed off in one of the previous dev streams. They had the physical models laid out.
Yeah, the weird
So-
head thing.
The cult, there's a cult of elves.
Yep.
I forget what they're called. Yeah.
I thought they were Murk elves, so it makes sense that they would live there. And since Project Fairthale is supposed to be, have examples of all of the gameplay that you should expect to see in the full game, it would make sense that you've got, Thrown Fast with, the newbie zone and a vendor's pass being above that, and then, you eventually get to the Murk and that Isle thing being, the top tier. So you've got level 1 to level 50 content spread for Fairthale, the project, not just the city.
And that's just basically the west side of one continent, and then you have the east side, which is Thrown Fast and Avondale's Pass, Haller's Cave, Black Rose Keep, and then what we don't know is what will be the middle, but we do know the south, which is the South Seoul and Tower of Reckless
Tower.
Magician. Yeah, there's all this stuff that's we know exists, but it would be nice, I guess, if they're calling it Project Fairthale. Oh yeah, we're working on the Murk, but then here's everything in the whole continent.
I think they did themselves a disservice by naming this project after a zone.
I agree.
It has just caused so much confusion because people think, oh, Fairthale, and then they hear the zone Fairthale. Oh, you're working on a zone. No, we're not. We're working on this big giant project. But it's still just, no, it's something different.
Yep.
Should have picked a better name.
It's another sub-zone semantic issue. They should have just said, Project Fairthale, hey, on our website, maybe on the front page, is a collection of half a dozen or some number of sub-zones.
Yeah, whatever the middle continent, I'm blanking on its name. Whatever that continent, they should have said Project Continent or something,
King's Reach?
Yeah, maybe that's it. So
I don't know.
Project King's Reach or something. And then you're not constantly asking, okay, is it this zone? Is it that zone? Is it that? And then you're like, oh no, it's also animations. Oh, and it's also class design. Oh, and it's also raids. It's just there's too much what is it questions going on. Still, after a year and a half of it being announced, because it was announced in June 2018. Oh my god. Anyway, the final topic of the night, of the day, for this podcast show episode is PA5 and Alpha. and where we think they're at. Personally,
that's the question of the year.
2 years, 3 years, I don't even know where we're at.
6 years.
But we know that they have to do PA5 soon. Like, that's a fact. They have to. If they don't, it's just, it's too much. It's bad enough that we went all of 2019 with no phases, like a PA5, PA6. But I think PA5 is coming. We know that the next news stream is on the 30th, January 30th, and it's supposed to be more meat, a meatier news stream. It'd be nice, I'm not saying it's going to happen, if there was a date announced. I mean, for the PA5, they don't even have to have it be tomorrow. They just need to have an announcement of it's going to be this date and just do it. Just fucking do it, man.
There was a little Q&A VIP thing with Kilson and Jason back in like September, and they were like practically giggling about.
Yeah, they were jerking each other off about how soon it was coming.
How close, and we can't tell you, but oh goodness, we're so excited. And that was 4 months ago, 5 months ago, and crickets. I mean, also, I think a month after that, in the monthly developer newsletter, and I think this was very, very strategic, somebody put in that they might have a pre-alpha 6. Why would you mention a pre-alpha 6 before you're even 6 months within pre-alpha 5? I think that's really scary that they're already like inching off that little band-aid of, we're still a year away from alpha, which I think we probably are.
I am hopeful. I'm going to try to remain optimistic on this topic and say that my expectation is that we will see pre-alpha 5 before the end of quarter 1 this year. So before, March 31st. I only base that on how things have progressed with those last dev streams that we saw in December. With the climbing being put in, new UI elements, the spell effects having gone in, that sort of stuff. It makes me hopeful that it's going to happen soon. If they have any expectations of getting this game out within the next 24 months, pre-alpha 5 needs to start very soon, this quarter. We know there's going to be a big break between pre-alpha 5 and whatever comes next. Let's assume that it's going to be an alpha. 4 months, 5 months break? I mean, we're now talking September to get alpha to start.
Yeah.
People say on the boards, like, I don't GAF about when it's going to come out, just that it does come out. And that's fine if you're an ID. But in the real world, it absolutely matters. It matters a tremendous amount when this game comes out. It cannot, if it launches in 2023, it's going to have 10,000 subscribers, maybe. There's going to be another half dozen MMOs out between then and now. They need to strike hammer while iron is hot, and their iron is cooling every single day.
Yeah, we just heard about Darkpaw Games, and they're working on another EverQuest, most likely MMO. It's probably going to be garbage, but I mean, that's just adding competition.
Look how many people jizzed over the fact that Brad was making another game. How many people are jizzing over the fact when they hear, another EverQuest? I mean, there is a sizable population out there that will play it just because it has the EverQuest name in it.
Exactly. And that's the Pantheon community. That's why we're here.
And people will put, a publisher, a development company will put $20 million into that game or $30 million into that game, and people will buy it, and it might suck, and they'll have dropped $60 plus a couple of months of subscription fees. And they might be like, I wish I'd bought Pantheon instead, but I can't spend another $100 right now on a video game. Too bad.
Yep.
Or I don't want to join it now because it's already been out for, some period of time and I'm going to be behind. Everyone will be able to catch up, yada, yada, yada.
Or I wish I'd put that $100 towards my pre-alpha 12 contribution.
Yeah, they definitely don't want to get caught in a spot where now everything they're working on isn't new anymore. You know, it's outdated. It's old. The graphics are shit. You know, that was their big thing about. To me, that was their big thing about Project Fairtale was Asmongold came in. This game looks like garbage. I would never play it, and they hit the brakes and decided to make their own creation assets, their own Unity assets, and then that's what stalled a lot of stuff. Obviously, there was a lot of content that needed to be made, but they don't want to dig themselves into the it's like a repeating loop of itself where, oh, this is going to get updated, and then by the time it does, it needs updated again.
Yep, and this is why I always rant so heavily against the reinventing the wheel things that they seem to do so often, whether it's acclamation or perception or climbing or living codex. We don't need new fancy things. Nobody expects any game these days to really be revolutionary. We just want it to be good and fun. And the more time they spend on all these try-hard things that are really just a facade. The Living Codex is your spellbook. Perception is an exclamation mark replacement. Acclamation is a new keying system. The more time they spend on those things, the more stale those things are going to get by the time the game launches, and they're not even original to begin with. They need to get this thing out quickly or it's going to die on the vine. I'm super scared.
One of the reasons why I think we are all having an issue with why isn't this already an alpha is because quite some time ago, I'm talking 4 years now, one of the discussions with Brad, he goes, I want my pre-alpha to be like alpha, I want my alpha to be like a beta. And I think it's that mindset that has got everybody out here confused, because pre-alphas should be rough, they should be unfinished. You know, we should be testing actual mechanics. We don't really care that, you know, the trees could have just been telephone poles, Minecraft looking type things. Buildings could just be gray blocks. That should be an expectation in a pre-alpha. And alpha should be a little bit more polished, but still focused on mechanics, not graphics. And we're already seeing, things where free Unity assets are now being replaced this early with in-house developed assets. That is a waste of time and money at this point in development.
I can't believe they're not using more, at least to our knowledge on the outside from what we've seen, not to pretend we know everything. I can't believe they're doing fronds when they have for $2,000 or $3,000 hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pre-made assets available, as if someone's going to see the same tree they saw in their mobile game in Pantheon and even recognize it and be like, oh, well, this game sucks. It's the same tree I saw in Clan Killer.
Yep.
It just blows my mind. Their strategy around, they're acting like they're a AAA team with unlimited resources, doing things original, ground up, when they really need to be super efficient. And it really calls into question some of their management and leadership.
I mean, I know that they want all of the assets to be their own. They want the world to be their world. I get it. And it should be that way. However, you can have the world become your own naturally over time. Start with the cheap free assets, which look phenomenal, by the way. I don't think anybody could stand in front of a free Unity asset tree and a handcrafted tree and honestly tell the difference, especially when you're running past it, on your way to some camp. Build the world with the free assets, and then over time, once you have the money and more staff, full-time employee staff, not independent contractors, then you start replacing the world bit by bit as you patch and do small updates. Because now it's a living world. trees get replaced, they die off, a new tree comes in to take its place. A baker has his building renovated, so it's no longer as blocky, it's now a better looking building. Those kinds of updates would make natural sense over the course of time. This is not the time to be doing any of that.
When they picked Unity years ago, and there was kind of a kerfuffle about it. Unity is for mobile games. It's less than, and it's never been used in a big netcode scale for an MMO and all that jazz. The big defense, the number one defense was, guys, we can get off the ground so quickly with Unity.
Right.
All the assets available. What in the world happened to that?
Asmongold.
There are 332 results for tree packages on the Unity Asset Store. Packages, not trees, packages of trees. 332. There are thousands of trees available. Why in the effing world are they making their own fronds?
I can understand if you've got, let's say, a huge ginormous tree. So let's look at like the movie, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You
Never
go
heard
into
of it.
Lothlorien, you have to go into Lothlorien and go up to where, Galadriel lived. Okay, it makes sense that you would have to handcraft something like that. But everything else, which is just a tree, pay $5, get the cheap one.
Yeah, it makes me think of like the animal sound for a bear in like EQ or WoW. I've heard that same bear sound in like a bajillion commercials, in movies, in TV shows. It's the same sound. Does it bother me at all? It's like, oh no, that's the bear from whatever. It's like it's a bear.
It's the Wilhelm scream.
Yep.
Now it's a running joke. It's in every freaking movie. And it's funny. It doesn't cheapen the movie at all. It actually makes it much more interesting.
Back in the day, in the very first Pantheon stream where Brad and them were at that orc camp, and it was super duper pre-alpha, one of the things that amused me to no end was that they used the exact same fonts from EverQuest. I loved it.
Again, it makes sense. Why change it? Is a font really that important? No, I don't think so.
It's like keeping the ding when you level. It's like that's just the
God,
thing.
If they change that, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
It was confirmed by Chris Rowan. # keep the ding. Ever since it was confirmed, because Brad, I guess, was really fighting to keep that sound. They wanted to do a new one because it's the new game, but he really wanted to keep the ding sound. And then when he died, Chris Rowan went in. He was on one of the streams chatting away, and they have since decided they are keeping the EQ ding sound.
Or just the ding sound. I mean, who knows? It wasn't even an EQ developed thing.
No, it was a free source sound somewhere that they found.
It makes perfect sense. Leave it in. It's like comfort food,
Exactly. And when you hear it, it's like an emotional response when you hear that thing, Other than just like, oh sweet, I leveled, but it's also you feel that like that jolt, get a little bit of serotonin flowing.
For the Twitch users out there, it's a gotchi-gasm. It's a gotchi bass. Like that's what the ding is.
Exactly. I do want to end the show on a positive note, and this is all due to old man Angry Vandrad. He went on Pantheon. What? He went on Pantheon Plus You right after the stream, ranting and raving about how garbage it was. There's no meat and potatoes, and how we need to see updates. Joppa was in the chat, and he agreed that they need to do a better job of showing progression. What that translated to throughout the show was that they're going to consider putting in patch notes and maybe even a percentage, of what's completed for that phase.
And that will help so much. I mean, just that one little change is going to go so far.
Yeah, there are multiple other competing MMOs in a similar stage of development right now who post their notes on the website, and people eat that shit up. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I want to say thank you for that. I know
You're welcome.
we as a community have been asking for that for a long time. I know we have our chats, the three of us, and we've wanted patch notes for years now. So it'd be crazy and amazing and exciting to actually see those little changes. And then they can even get creative with them. The little last line was removed Ronix's corpse from X Zone. But that ends our show. We are over an hour long here, so I may break this up into 2 episodes for our viewers. But do you guys have any closing remarks?
I do. This is a quote from our friend Chris Perkins from February 16th, 2015. And I quote, "Don't ever stop pushing us to be and do better as a development team, both in the quality of our work and the quality of our communication."
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what. No white knights here, guys.
Gray Knights? I mean, just honest.
Do you have anything?
I get yelled at by lots of people in private messages and whatnot for being so, mean and angry about stuff and giving I almost said Varant. What the fuck? Giving VR a hard time. And I said I'm just being honest. And when they are deserving of praise, I give it to them. And I tell them exactly why I like what they've done, and I'm wholly supportive of it. And when I think that something is not being done right, I let them know in as equal terms. And I have been that way since day one, and I will continue to be that way.
Exactly. And I saw your message to Joppa in that show after you specifically said to him, "Hey, I might get ranty about things or emotional about them or whatever, but I do appreciate all the work you do. Don't stop doing it." And his response was perfect. This is the way.
Yeah, this is the way.
So, okay, that concludes the show. Thanks, guys, for being here. Thanks if there's anyone watching or listening to the show, awesome. Leave a like, thumbs up, subscribe, or whatever. We will try. That's on me to be more present for more episodes. So hopefully we'll have those coming through. If there's any topics, maybe not so much class related, guys, go ahead and post those in the comments or tweet at me, shoot me a message in Discord. My social stuff's up on the screen there. So with that said, thanks guys for being here.
Anytime, man. Always happy to do it.
Bah humbug.
All right, see you later.
Bye.
Peace.